They thought it was a joke, but the moment she opened her mouth, the room froze. Laughter died, jaws dropped, and what happened next left everyone terrified. They were witnessing something unreal. Who was this waitress? And why had she hidden a voice like that? The restaurant smelled of fried catfish and cornbread, the kind of scent that clung to clothes long after customers had left. It was Friday evening in Atlanta, and the Magnolia House, a soul food spot tucked between a barber shop and a laundromat, was alive with chatter. Forks clinked against plates, and jazz drifted from the corner speakers. Behind the counter, Lena James moved gracefully, balancing 3 plates on her arm. She wore her black apron tied tight, her hair pulled back in a neat bun, and her eyes sparkled with both fatigue and determination. To most customers, she was just the smiling waitress who remembered their orders without writing them down. But for those who worked beside her, she was a quiet force who held herself with dignity even after 12-hour shifts. Lena had been in Atlanta for 4 years, having left her small town in rural Georgia with little more than a suitcase and the weight of her family's hopes on her shoulders. Her mother was still back home, working odd jobs to support Lena's younger siblings, 2 bright-eyed children who sent her voice notes every week. Music had been the first language of her childhood. In the mornings, her mother would hum gospel hymns. By the time she was 10, Lena's voice carried through the Georgia pines like honey poured over steel. But when her father passed away, dreams of music took a back seat. Survival came first. Now, in this bustling restaurant, her singing lived only in memories, something too personal to share. That Friday night, a group of college students filled a booth near the stage. They were loud and playful. The restaurant had a small corner where a local band sometimes played, but tonight it sat empty. One of the students, a tall boy with a mischievous grin, caught Lena as she set down their plates. "Hey, Miss Waitress," he said, chuckling. "Bet you can't sing." His friends laughed, egging him on. "Yeah, grab the mic. Give us a show," another shouted, pointing toward the unused microphone. The joke landed sharp in Lena's chest. She forced a polite smile. "I'll leave that to the professionals," she replied softly, ready to walk away. But then the restaurant manager, overhearing, chimed in from behind the counter. "You know," he said, smirking, "I've heard her humming back in the kitchen. She's got a little something." The room's attention shifted. Suddenly, all eyes were on her. The chatter softened. The students began to chant playfully, "Sing, sing, sing." Her throat tightened. Her instincts screamed to refuse, to disappear back into the kitchen. But then she caught the gaze of a little girl at a nearby table, watching her with wide, expectant eyes. Something in that child's face mirrored her younger self, sitting on the porch steps back home. Before she could think twice, Lena stepped toward the stage. She reached for the microphone, her hands trembling. The crowd chuckled, waiting for entertainment, not art. And then she sang. It wasn't a timid hum. From deep in her chest rose a voice as rich as velvet, soaring through the restaurant like sunlight breaking through clouds. The first note silenced the room. The second stole the breath from every listener. Conversations died mid-sentence. Forks hovered midair. By the time she reached the chorus, a soulful gospel refrain from her childhood, the entire restaurant was transfixed. The applause thundered long after Lena lowered the microphone. Customers stood on their chairs, whistling. The manager wiped his eyes discreetly with a napkin. Lena, however, wanted the floor to swallow her whole. Her hands still trembled, and she felt more exposed than she ever had in her life. She muttered a soft, "Thank you," then darted off the stage and back into the safety of the kitchen. Later that night, on the bus heading back to her small apartment, her phone buzzed nonstop. Confused, she pulled it from her pocket. Her heart nearly stopped. Someone had recorded her performance and uploaded it online. In just a few hours, it already had thousands of views. Comments flooded the screen. "Who is this waitress? Pure soul. Somebody sign this woman immediately." Her stomach flipped. It wasn't just a moment inside the restaurant anymore. It was out there, alive, unstoppable. For Lena, who had carefully kept her dreams buried, this was terrifying. The next morning at the Magnolia House, customers crowded the doorway before it even opened. People asked, "Is the waitress singing tonight?" Some brought friends, others brought cameras. Lena felt her pulse race. She hadn't asked for this. That night, the dinner rush peaked, and the crowd began chanting her name. Every instinct screamed to say no, but her eyes landed on the video playing on someone's screen in the front row. It was her, standing on that same stage, pouring out her soul. With shaky steps, she approached the microphone once more. The crowd hushed instantly. She closed her eyes and let her voice spill into the room, steady and commanding. In the middle of her performance, Lena noticed a man near the bar recording intently. He wasn't like the others, he wasn't smiling or clapping. He was studying her, almost calculating. When their eyes met, he gave her the kind of nod that said, "I see more than they do. I see potential." When the final note fell, the applause nearly shook the walls. But Lena's heart was locked on that stranger at the bar, who had slipped out before the cheers ended. When she finally rose to leave the restaurant that night, she noticed something tucked under the microphone stand, a cream-colored business card, crisp and clean. Marcus Thorne, Talent Management and Artist Development. Beneath the name, a simple phone number. Her chest tightened. It had to be from the man at the bar. This wasn't just applause anymore. It was an invitation. A door cracked open, tempting her to step through. That night, she called her mother back home. "Lena, how are you holding up?" her mother asked, her voice heavy with fatigue. "I'm good, Mama," Lena replied softly. "Work is busy. Busy is good. It means steady money. Your brother's school fees are due next week. Can you send extra?" Lena's throat tightened. She glanced at the business card lying on her table. "Yes, Mama," she whispered. "I'll send it." She didn't mention the singing. She didn't mention the video, the applause, or the stranger who might hold her future in his hands. By Sunday morning, the video had reached over 80,000 views. And then a message appeared on her phone from an unknown number. "This is Marcus Thorne. I was at the restaurant. Let's talk. You have something rare. Don't waste it." Her hands shook as she read it. This wasn't just a compliment. This was an offer, a path. But every choice came with risk. If she pursued this, she might disappoint her family. She might fall flat and lose the stability she had worked so hard to build. Still, something in her heart whispered louder than her fear. For the first time since arriving in Atlanta, she let herself imagine more than survival. She let herself picture stages, lights, and audiences chanting her name. A few days later, she finally dialed the number. A voice answered, smooth and confident. "This is Marcus Thorne." Lena froze, words trapped in her throat. She almost hung up, but then she swallowed hard and whispered, "This is Lena. You left your card for me." There was a pause. Then the voice brightened. The waitress with the golden voice. "I was hoping you'd call. I've been in this business a long time. Voices like yours don't come around often. When I heard you sing, I didn't just hear talent. I heard legacy." She whispered, almost defensive, "I'm not a singer. I'm just a waitress." Marcus chuckled softly. "A waitress? Sure, that's your job. But your calling is much bigger. Tell me, do you really think God gave you that voice just to call out table numbers?" His words hit her squarely in the chest. Marcus pressed on. "Here's what I'm offering. I can get you in front of people who matter, record labels, producers. But I need to know if you're serious. This isn't a hobby, Lena. This is a commitment. And commitment means sacrifice. Sacrifice. The word echoed through her mind. What would her mother say? What about her siblings? They depended on the money she sent. Mr. Thorne, she said quietly, I don't even know where to start. I have no training, no money for lessons. That's the beauty of it, Marcus replied. You're raw, authentic. People connect to you because you're real. And in this business, real is priceless. The week after her call with Marcus felt like a storm hovering over her life. At the Magnolia House, the once ordinary restaurant now pulsed with anticipation. Customers no longer whispered her name, they spoke it out loud. On Thursday evening, Marcus stepped through the restaurant doors, his presence commanding. He walked straight to her. Miss James. We spoke on the phone. Seeing him in person made everything real. She led him to a booth at the back. He leaned forward, his voice low but steady. Here's the truth, Lena. That video of you is closing in on 500,000 views. That's momentum. And momentum in this business is gold. But momentum fades. If you don't act now, people will move on. I can't just walk away from my job, she said, twisting her apron. My family depends on me. I'm not asking you to abandon them, Marcus said, his eyes sharp. I'm asking you to believe that your voice could give them more than tips from serving tables ever will. Just then, her coworker Brenda appeared. You going to sit here and play small, or you going to listen to what this man's saying, she said bluntly. I've been watching you hide behind those plates for years. You've got something special, girl. And if you let fear stop you, you'll regret it for the rest of your life. Her words cut deeper than Marcus's polished pitch ever could. He slid a sleek envelope across the table. There's a showcase downtown this Saturday night. Small crowd, but the right kind of crowd. Producers, local radio, a few label scouts. I can get you on stage. 10 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Lena stared at the envelope as if it were glowing. She thought of her mother's tired voice, her siblings' laughter. For years she had buried her gift in the soil of responsibility. Now, here it was, pushing to bloom. With trembling hands, she reached out and touched the envelope. That night, the phone buzzed. A video call. It was her younger brother, his smile filling the screen. Lena. We saw the video. Everybody in town is talking about you. You sounded like an angel. Mama pretended she wasn't impressed, but I saw her wiping her eyes. She was proud. Tears welled in Lena's eyes. When the call ended, she finally tore open the envelope. Inside were the details: Saturday, 7 p.m., Atlanta Showcase Theater. 10 minutes. Bring nothing but your voice. The choice was no longer hypothetical. She had agreed, if only to herself, to step onto that stage. On Saturday, the showcase loomed. Doubt crept in. What if her nerves failed her? What if the showcase crowd was different? That week, she called her mother. Mama, it's not just a dream. People believe in me. There's an opportunity. Opportunity, her mother's tone sharpened. What about responsibility? Your little sister needs new shoes. Don't you dare get distracted, Lena. We cannot afford it. The line went quiet. Guilt crashed over her like a wave. The night before the showcase, she tried to rehearse, but her voice cracked. Her throat tightened with panic. She stopped, staring at her reflection. For a terrifying moment, she wondered if her mother was right. Saturday night arrived draped in nerves. Backstage at the showcase, Lena sat on a folding chair, her palms slick with sweat. Marcus appeared at her side. You've got 10 minutes, he said softly. That's all it takes. Another performer, a tall woman with sharp features, gave her a mocking smile. You're the waitress, right? She said, her voice dripping with condescension. Cute story. But this isn't a restaurant crowd. This is real competition. Don't choke. The words hit like daggers. The MC's voice boomed through the speakers. Next up, we have Lena James. Lena stepped onto the stage, the spotlight searing her vision. Her knees trembled. For a terrifying moment, nothing came out. Then a voice from the crowd shouted, "Sing, Waitress." Laughter rippled through the room. Her chest tightened. She could feel her throat closing. But then, she remembered her brother's smile, Brenda's fierce encouragement, and the strangers online who said her voice gave them hope. She closed her eyes, inhaled deeply, and let the first note escape. It wasn't timid. It wasn't broken. It was fire. Her voice poured out, soaring higher and higher. Every lyric carried her story, the sacrifice, the dreams deferred, the unshakable hope. The laughter died instantly. Jaws dropped. By the final chorus, the entire theater was on its feet. Applause thundered. Backstage, the sharp-featured woman who had mocked her stood frozen, disbelief on her face. Lena lowered the microphone slowly. She had walked onto that stage as a waitress. She walked off as something else entirely. Back in the wings, Marcus just stared at her. "You did it," he said quietly. "You didn't just sing. You owned that stage." By Monday morning, the clip of Lena's performance had spread far beyond Atlanta. Bloggers called her the waitress who stunned the city, but not everyone was celebrating. The singer from the showcase, Bianca, began spreading whispers online, posting clips with snide captions, "Cute voice, but let's see if the waitress can keep up with real artists." Some followers echoed her cruelty, one-hit wonder. Viral gimmick. The biggest blow came when she called her mother again. "Mama, I think things are changing. People want me to record." Her mother's response was heavy with doubt. "Contracts don't put food on the table today, Lena. You're chasing clouds. Don't forget why you left home." The silence that followed felt heavier than any applause. For the first time, Lena realized her journey might take her farther from her family before it ever brought her closer. That weekend, Marcus arranged another performance at a small downtown lounge. The room was divided, half buzzing with excitement, the other half skeptical, their arms crossed. She could feel their judgment. "They don't believe in you." Bianca was right. But then she thought of Brenda's fierce words, "If you let fear stop you, you'll regret it for the rest of your life." And then she sang. The first note was shaky, but she steadied herself and let her voice rise. With each verse, her tone grew stronger, deeper. The song wasn't just a melody, it was her story. The skeptics shifted in their seats. One by one, their crossed arms loosened. The applause erupted before the last note faded. But in the corner, Bianca sat with her arms folded, her eyes sharp with envy. She didn't clap. She just smirked, her phone already in her hand, typing furiously. Later that night, social media exploded again. Buried among the praise were venomous posts seeded by Bianca's followers, overhyped. Fake. Don't buy into the sob story. Alone in her apartment, she scrolled through the comments, her chest tightening until tears spilled down her cheeks. She called her mother, desperate for comfort. "Mama, people are saying terrible things." Her mother sighed. "I warned you, Lena. Fame is a fickle thing. You should have stayed focused on work. At least then we could count on you." The word stung worse than any online comment. She had never felt so defeated. That night, she stood in front of her mirror, ready to rehearse, but when she opened her mouth, no sound came. Her throat locked tight. She tried again, but the notes cracked, unrecognizable. For the first time in her life, Lena, the girl who had stunned a restaurant and silenced a theater, felt like her voice had left her. And without it, she was nothing. The next morning, Lena sat in silence, staring at the microphone on the floor. Her phone buzzed. It was Brenda. Girl, open your door. A moment later, Brenda brushed past her into the apartment, holding 2 bags of takeout. You look like death warmed over, she said bluntly. I don't care what those haters are saying. I don't care what your mama said. I was there. You've got something people can't fake. Don't you dare let some jealous wannabe steal that from you. Later that day, a voice note came from her brother. Lena, I don't care what people are saying. You're my sister and you're the best singer in the world. Don't stop sharing your gift. That night, she stood before the mirror once more. She remembered Brenda's fire, her brother's encouragement. She took a deep breath and sang. The first note wavered, but it came. The second grew steadier. By the chorus, her voice was whole again, rising and filling the room like it had never been lost. Her crisis hadn't destroyed her. It had lit a fire. The auditorium for the national finals was larger than anything she had ever seen. Backstage, her heart thundered. The MC's voice boomed. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Lena James. She stepped into the light. Her hands shook. Then, a voice from the crowd, sharp and mocking, cut through the air. Sing, Waitress. Laughter rippled through the audience. Her knees buckled. But then she heard her brother's words in her mind, you're the best singer in the world. Her spine straightened. She closed her eyes and sang. It wasn't just a note. It was a declaration. The laughter died instantly. Her voice soared, carrying with it the ache of sacrifice, the sting of doubt, the fire of resilience. She wasn't just singing words, she was telling her story. The crowd leaned forward, captivated. Some wiped away tears. Even the judges were moved to stand. When her final note faded, silence hung for a heartbeat. Then the auditorium erupted. Applause thundered like a storm. And the winner of this year's National Music Showcase is... The MC's voice stretched the pause. Lena James. The room exploded. Confetti burst from the rafters. She stood center stage, stunned, as Marcus rushed to embrace her. I told you, he whispered. The world needed to hear you. The most important moment came when she called home. Mama, her voice trembled. I won. There was silence, then the faint sound of weeping. I was wrong, her mother's voice cracked. Forgive me. I thought dreams were a luxury we couldn't afford. But you turned them into something real. I am so proud of you. Tears streamed down Lena's face. For the first time, she didn't feel the distance between her and her family. Her pride had bridged it. Months later, she stood once again at the Magnolia House, not as a waitress, but as a guest of honor. A banner hung across the ceiling, from our stage to the world. Congratulations, Lena James. Her manager handed her the old microphone, the same one she had first touched when dared to sing as a joke. She smiled softly. This is where it all began, she said. And I'll never forget it. As her voice carried through the restaurant, one thought settled deep in her heart. She had once believed her voice was a secret to be hidden. But now she knew gifts were never meant to be buried. They were meant to be shared. And as the final note rang out, and the audience rose to their feet, Lena closed her eyes, tears slipping down her cheeks, and whispered, I am home.